No.
The heck? Oh, now did
there
it?
it goes. Yep,
Okay. And you can see my screen?
I can.
All right. Why won't it let me present? Okay, 1 second.
There you go.
There we go. Okay.
Ooh, sweet, and I can take control if I click this little button.
So today we're going over women-owned small business certification through the SBA, and along with that, the economically disadvantaged women-owned small business. Our organization is NADC. Our PTech is a part of them. We were established in 1996. Our CDFI opened in 2001. We as a PTech have been running since 2009. We have our consulting services that started in 2011, and our clinic opened in 2018. What we offer, we have nonprofits, we have for-profits, our healthcare, but mostly we want to help develop Native-owned businesses. Our objectives today, I want you to get an understanding of the program and why getting the certification of being woman-owned is going to help you, as well as what makes you eligible and how to document that and the steps for that process. So the women-owned certification, it used to be self-certify. And so the program was established in 1994, and the Equity in Contracting for Women Act was passed in 2000. That just set a lot of those goals where so many contracts are supposed to be allotted to women-owned companies. In 2004, the U.S. Women's Chamber of Commerce brought a suit against the SBA because the Equity in Contracting for Women's Act was not implemented. And so in 2010, that final rule was finally implemented. And in 2011, the program was up and running. And just last year, it was announced that there's going to be major reforms in how federal dollars are going to be spent, including women-owned. All of those goals should eventually go up from where they are. So the women-owned small business program is important because currently that 5% spending goal has not been met since 2018, despite women owning 25% of businesses. So having this certification, it will show up on your SAM and you can use it on any marketing. And so when contracting officers or prime contractors are looking for women-owned businesses to work with, you will have that visibility. As long as you qualify, there is no time limit for eligibility. The only one that you may risk losing is that economically disadvantaged if you no longer qualify for that status. So it will increase opportunities by limiting your competition. Certain contracts are set aside, so you are only going to compete against other women-owned businesses. And it allows more networking and matchmaking opportunities, as well as those primes are going to have preferences to work with women-owned companies as well to meet their own goals. So how do you qualify? So there are 3 main requirements, and you need to qualify as a small business. And so the SBA has regulations for even to self-certify as a small business. And that depends on what industry you are in. And then it will either be the number of employees you have or your receipts from the last 2 years. You do need to be 51% owned and controlled by a woman or women who are US citizens. And you have to manage all daily operations to meet those control requirements. And so what that unconditional ownership is no one has an interest to buy, and you can't be owned by another company. There are few exceptions for tribally owned companies to get around being owned by a holding company. But other than that, you just need to be owned majority by women. The tricky part when it comes to documenting and like the actual application itself is proving control. So women have to hold the highest officer positions. And so from my client base, typically that's CEO, but I have one where it's owned and she's the CFO. And they were able to get theirs through as well. You do have to show your resume to show that you have sufficient manager experience, and no one can hold influence over key individuals. That's mostly like if the woman holds the position but her husband is making some decisions, they just want to make sure that you can prove that and that no one holds veto power over that woman that's making those decisions. There are additional requirements to meet for that economically disadvantaged women-owned certification. And so you need to meet all requirements for the women-owned small business and also need to be worth less than $750,000 and be owned or controlled by one or more women with $350,000 or less in adjusted gross income. If it's more than one woman that you're basing that after, both women have to meet these requirements or all. And then you can't have more than 6 million in personal assets. So what does documentation look like and how should you prepare that? You need to be registered in SAM before you can even begin the process. And so they have it broken up into different sections. And so your SBA basic eligibility part, you just need to prove US citizenship for that first step. You need to prove ownership. And so you need things like your articles of incorporation. We're going to break that one down a little bit more in detail on the next slide. And then for control, like I said, it's going to be your resume to show past performance, whether that's with your company or in the corporate world with past positions you've held. You may need a letter of explanation to show that you do have that experience if your resume isn't solid. And then your individual contributor, that's where you just show ownership and financials, just to show you for sure own this company and control this company. And so here's some more detailed information about ownership. And so you need your operating agreement and any amendments, and it needs to be recent and it needs to be certified. I've had some issues in the past where people will grab their original and submit that, even though they've made amendments. You need to have every amendment included. Other documents that you might need are going to be your joint venture, if you have any of those, anything that you've bought or sold, whether that's shares, any changes in partnership, anything like that. You need your articles of organization, again, any amendments, and again, that needs to be certified, and you need the filing seal. And then if you have a DBA or a trade name, you just need record showing that that is official. And then here's what you need if you're in a corporation. Again, your articles of incorporation, all stock certificates, your stock ledgers, you need your bylaws, and meeting minutes and any joint venture. Partnerships and sole proprietors are going to be the easiest ones to get through. So for sole proprietorship, you just need your DBA if you have that. And for partnership, it's the same plus any partnerships agreements and any amendments to those. The additional financial information you need for the economically disadvantaged is 3 years of personal tax returns and all schedules. They do want those certified as well. 3 years of your business tax returns, and then 3 years of all of your W-2s, 1099s, anything like that. And then if you haven't been in business for 3 years, just make sure to include a letter of explanation as to how you feel that your business is ready to do this certification. Submitting the application, make sure that you have everything compiled that you need and save that together so that you can just pull and grab as you're submitting it. Make sure they're saved in either a Word document, or PDFs are typically preferred, and they won't have formatting issues when they're opened. Make sure you double check your SAM registration. Your person of contact, your primary contact, must be the owner in your SAM registration. That's another common mistake where they'll have an admin be their point of contact, but with recent changes in SAM, your main person of contact does have to be in an executive level position, so that should help that. Where you submit, it's beta.certify.sba.gov. I believe it has moved or is beginning to move to just certify.sba.gov, but beta certify still is working. So both are currently working right now. The standard is that they are to make a determination within 90 calendar days after they receive it. I do know they have been backed up, so that's been taking a little bit longer, like 4 to 5 months currently. And then to maintain that certification, you just have to attest annually, and then you have to resubmit your documents every 3 years, just to make sure that you still meet all of those requirements. And to summarize, this program is open to any women-owned small business. The benefits are only going to be in industries that are lacking in women-owned companies. So that's something us as your PTAC can help you decide if it's worth your time. But even just from a marketing standpoint alone, it most likely will be. All of the eligibility requirements and checklists and a whole lot of other information you can find at beta.certified.sba.gov. And that is also where you will submit that application. make sure that you have all documentation assembled and ready to go before you start the application, and save it somewhere easy to find so that you can just go from start to finish. And again, where you apply is beta certify. Are there any questions? All right, well, if there are any future questions, you can contact any of us at your PTAC, or now APEX Accelerator.
Thanks, Abby.
That's all I have.
Thanks.